سپاس از شاهین گرامی. Now for the benefit of our English-speaking people here, yes, we would like to have, we will have 2 lectures in English. Dr. Anooshirvani has agreed to do that, and before Dr. Anooshirvani starts, I will just give a brief biography of Dr. Anooshirvani. Dr. Anooshirvani went to the United States in 1970, and in the past 37 years he's a specialist in psychiatry, and he's been practicing psychiatry in the last 37 years, and also research into ancient languages and culture of Iran. He has been a visiting lecturer at several universities and a guest speaker at many gatherings and events of Iranians and non-Iranians. He regards the biggest gift of his life, his loving wife, 2 wonderful children, and 4 lovely grandchildren. Isn't that nice? Dr. Anooshirvani, please.
First, want to express my thanks to the director and master of ceremony, Namdorjana Besior Aziz, and as he has asked me, and also Mr. Wafadari and all people who have worked here and people who work behind the counter, I'm really very thankful to all of them. This is my 2nd time that I speak on this place. The first time was 2 or 3 years ago that I spoke. I don't remember exactly what. I doubt if anybody else remembers what. but this is my 2nd time. Anyway, yesterday I spoke in Farsi. Today, as he has asked me, I speak in English. But most of the time I speak in Fangilisi with a Kermani accent. So please forgive me if you miss any part of my words or speech. Now, a couple of issues. First, we have to make a distinction between Avesta and Gathas. Gathas is only a small part of Avesta. Avesta is what you can call it the Zoroastrian literature. And in Zoroastrianism, they also preserved what was in existence from before Zarathustra. All Yashtas. Yashtas are very old songs, basically. And there are many of them, many pages. More than 60,000 words or so. And then the Gathas, you can read the entire Gathas, the philosophy, the teachings of Zarathustra in less than 45 minutes. Is like 2,600, a little bit more than 2,600 words, 231 lines, and 17 sections. It's a very small document. But the genius of Zarathustra was that he was able to really put the quintessence of human life and what is known as philosophy in such a small document. I'm going to address the life and the relation between 3 personalities in our history. Zarathustra as the founder of philosophy, Cyrus as someone who put that philosophy to work for government, for governing a vast portion of the civilized, so to speak, world at that time, if we can call in part of the areas of the world civilized, actually. Now, I explained that they were not quite civilized. But it's amazing that there was some sort of civilization going on in the Iran, in Asia Minor. Why am I saying that? Because Vishtaspa, who had a kingdom, a small kingdom, in where Tajikistan is nowadays, and the part of Persian land, Khorasan, Iranian land, Khorasan. Vishtaspa ruled that small kingdom. Then Zarathustra all of a sudden came along and said, I want to reject your gods. They were the followers of many gods in those religions. At that time, we had God of the sky, God of the rain, God of the water, God of this, God of that. And Zarathustra said, I'm going to present only one God to you, and that's Ahura Mazda. The rest of them are imaginary gods. Call them imaginary gods. And actually Vishtaspa or Gushtas allowed him to speak in his court. So apparently he was an enlightened and civilized individual. Otherwise, close to 4,000 years ago, can you imagine? You can't do that in today's world. You go to a country and say, I'm going to let you get rid of your God or your gods or whatever belief you have. You would not live that long if you state something like this in any part of the world nowadays. But at that time, Vishwasva allowed Zarathustra, who was a person, had no army, no followers, nobody, to go to his court and speak to him and the learned of his court, which is amazing. So I spoke about the other parts of the world which were not so civilized. At that time, the rest of the world, so to speak, was run by who? By Elamites, by Gothis, by Lullabies, by Assyrians, Elamites I mentioned, and a few others, that their job was to always fight with each other. They were at war all the time. And that was their job, that last time you came to my state. There were small kingdoms actually. You attacked Assyria and you destroyed part of my land. Now you wait until I gain some power, I will do the same and worse to you. And this is what they did. They were at war all the time. They were scared of each other all the time. And I start with the life of Cyrus the Great, or Kurush Buzur. At that time, there were meets in current Persian land or Iranian land. There were meets up north of Zagros Mountains, and there were Parsis or Persians toward the south of Iran. And at that time, these two kingdoms actually were pretty friendly. There were two brothers ruling these two lands, these two governments, so to speak, until the Medes, which are of today's court. We have a Kurdish friend here. The Medes felt threatened by Assyria. And Assyrians were the most brutal. They had a reputation for brutality. And if they threatened somebody, that other kingdom would be in fear. And exactly this is what happened. The king of Medes at the time got very scared of the threats that they have perceived from the Assyrians. And the king, Astyages was the name, was in fear what to do, so contacted the relative Cambyses first, Cambyses Nakhos, contacted him and said, we are in deep trouble. You better help us, otherwise we are going to be destroyed by the Syrians. So now, Cyrus the Great, his mother was Mandana. Mandana was a Mede, so half of Cyrus was Kurd, as I call it. Was a Mede. Half of him was a Mede, the other half was his father, who was king of Pars and was a Persian, basically. So now Cyrus the Great was sent towards south to, after enjoying all the education during childhood that God from Astyages up north, came to south to live in the court of his father. And at that time, really, he was a Mede, because his education and his upbringing was in media, and he was ridiculed by other children. But after a while, when he became fluent in the language and could really show them how intelligent, how wise, how fair he was, he gradually found his place in the Persian Empire. And this coincided with the time that he was called to, by the uncle from up north from Media, communicated that they were in danger. Then the king of Persia said, this is a good time. By that time, Cyrus was, I think, somewhere between 20 to 23 years old, and said, this is the job for Cyrus, because half Median, and the media is asking for help, and he knows the language, he knows the culture, so he's the one to be sent in there, and in order to assist them with the Assyrians. Now, what his father did, said, Cyrus, you... Yes? Cyrus was actually appointed not by his father, by a council of high advisors. They were all council, and everybody voted on Cyrus or Quresh, and they said this would be the elected person. Then the council asked him to recruit 200 individuals as his principal organizers. And Cyrus did this, and then asked every one of them to bring 5 people of their choice whom they wanted to work with. So they all did that. All the court people, all the people, youngsters who had some ability and was known to him, so each one of them recruited another 5. Then he also started to recruit until they were 10,000. And of these 10,000, they were divided to 3 groups of archers, of javelin throwers, and of slingers. Slinging at that time was throwing stones to the castle, destroying the from the air. It was like the air. It's important to know that at that time in Persian Empire, in the entire area, there were not cavalries. They didn't use horses in war. But the Syrians did, Babylonians did, Elamites did. But Persian and Medes, they didn't have horses until Cyrus said, they were thinking that, the thinking at that time was that horses are animals, they get scared, all sorts of problems occur. We need brave soldiers with a human mind to be able to win wars, not horses. But Cyrus changed, said horses move very fast, and the Cyrus' opinion was the faster a war goes, the better. Why? Because the casualties will be less. So you have to make a quick end of a war. And whatever it takes, if you are in danger, if you want to defend yourself, you have to make sure that it ends quickly, otherwise it will be casualties and suffering. And that was not something that Cyrus wanted to inflict. Anyway, the rest of it is history as to what Cyrus was able to do. I suffice to say that according to Larry Hedricks, who published the abridged book of Xenophon. Xenophon in Persian we call him Xenophon. The book of the Cyropedia, the book written by Xenophon, is like 900 pages. It's extremely difficult English. I would not recommend to anyone to read it. But there is a abridged form of that book by Larry Hedrick, which is very readable, very nice, and is a short form of the Xenophon Cyropedia. Is about 250 pages, and it's very easy. And it's amazing how the Xenophon, who was actually Greek, and lived 100 years after it, exactly 100 years or 101 years after Cyrus' demise. So he, although a Greek, but was very fair and very fond of Cyrus the Great. And he has published a book which has really led a lot of leaders of the world. They say it was one of the mandatory readings for the founding fathers of the United States. It was a mandatory reading, and they all had to read this. And also it has been termed the best book in leadership. Now, Herodotus basically carried an Iranian passport. There were no passports, of course, at that time, but he was an Iranian citizen. He was a Persian citizen, and he was so against the culture of Iranians. And he was one of those who called our forefathers barbarians. We were called by barbarians by Greeks, by Romans. Now, it's not too difficult to find out who was the barbarian. Barbarians were the ones who were throwing human beings in front of animals to be killed and eaten up, and they would applaud. Those were barbarians. We don't have such thing in our history. The entire Persepolis was built, of course it's well known. We all know the names of the architects, the workers, everybody who worked in Persepolis establishment with the salaries that they were paid. We know that they were workers' compensation. If something happened to them during the building of the place, they had coverage, medical, all sorts that is lacking here, and all sorts of facilities was available to the workers. They got, the female workers got pregnancy time off, all sorts of things like that. But still, of course, we were the barbarians, they were the nice ones to the world. Now, really, Cyrus, where did he get this philosophy from? How he was such a unique leader and governor in the world. The world has not seen too many people like him. If you look at the Cyrus cylinder, Osmane Kurush, it's unique even to this day. And what he did in terms of the, as I said, I don't remember if I said this or not, but anyway, Xenophon called him he said to Persians, Cyrus was a father, to Greeks was a lawgiver, to the Jews was a savior, was Peygamber. You don't see Moses' name in the Old Testament, but you see Cyrus the Great's name quite a few times. I don't remember 5 or 6 times, something like this. In the book of Israel in particular, you see his name. So, and he said to the Babylonians was a liberator. So this is unique qualities. Now I was giving similar lecture some 25 years ago to a large group of people in New Orleans. And somebody said, well, if Cyrus said this is what I did in his cylinder, that I freed the Jews, I did this, I did that, said, you know, he was a king. And did you expect to say that I killed, I destroyed, I pillaged? No, he was a powerful king and said to make a cylinder, and this is what they did, and now you are quoting all that. I said, at the minimum, Cyrus the Great had sense enough to know what's right, what's wrong. At that time, it was few years after the desert storm. I quoted a statement by President Bush first, the President Bush father, who actually proclaimed that we dropped more bombs in Iraq than the entire Second World War was dropped on the entire world. So I said, well, this is somebody of our time. He is proud that this is what he has done. Now, Cyrus the Great at that time at least had the sense to know what's right, what's wrong. Where did he get that sense of ethics? And then I said, Xenophon, Greeks were Persian enemies. They were at war many times. And Xenophon says these things about Cyrus. So it seems like there's quite a few people who had that type of question about Cyrus the Great. Now, really, if I don't have time, I want to bring this to a close. I want to hear my good friend Dr. Giorgiani, because he is one of the best speakers I ever heard. So I wanted to bring this to a quick end. But among all those things that Cyrus the Great said, there are one thing that sticks to my mind. There are many, many points that he raises. For example, he says you always have to motivate your soldiers or people who work for you in the right way. The motivation should come from them, but you have to assist them to get motivated. How? He says, appeal to their sense of history. Says with the soldiers, tell them that you are here now to fulfill the wishes of your fathers and your grandparents. They wanted freedom, they wanted the prospect, they wanted happiness, they wanted this and that. They could not achieve it. Or if they partially achieve it, now you are here to make them happy and bring about the full fulfillment of their wishes. And this is how you motivate your soldier and people who work under you. And also something else that sticks to my mind says that there must be variety and disparity in counsel and unity in action. And this is what he calculated in his soldier's mind, that I listen to every single one of you, say your opinion, don't fear from me, but once the decision is made, you follow it. You don't have the freedom to deviate from. So that, now my lecture is supposed to be about the trend of ethics in the Iranian culture. So where does ethics come from? Now ethics, as Shaheen Najad was also explaining, ethics is different from morality. Morality is something which is moral here. In another culture can be completely immoral, or vice versa. But ethics is different. There are things which are right, there are things which are wrong. The three nicks, the three goods in Zarathushtri philosophy, he was the first one to say this. Now, three goods. They say, how do you know? Some people ask me, how do you know what's good? What you say is good? How? No, Zarathustra explains. Good is what's causing progress, what causes the radiant happiness, not happiness alone, radiant happiness. Those are nick, those are good, the three goods. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. If there is a word that hurts, if there is a word that does not cause progress, cause regression, causes decline, that cannot be nick, that cannot be good word. If there is an action that destroys, cannot be good. So this is the ethics where it comes from. Now I briefly go through the Amshal Spandan because I feel like I have some extra stuff to say about that, and these are the basic tenets of Zarathustra's teaching. One, as my good friend Shaheen Najad said, is Wahuman. Now, suppose you want to establish a committee and make some invention, bring about something very new and useful. What you need to do? First, you need to have a good idea. Wahu mana. Wahu means be, mana means mentality. You have to have the right mentality, a good thought in your head that what you are going to do. You are going to invent a new thing. Wahu mana. Then Asha Vahishta, which in today's Persian has become Ordibesh. Asha Vahishta. Asha means the general rules of the universe. This whole universe has a rule, and you can't deviate from it. If you say barley, you cannot expect to have wheat. If you want wheat, you have to sow wheat in the ground, otherwise you won't get wheat. So there are some rules. This is called Ashar. The entire knowledge encoded in this entire universe, which is huge, of course. Now, so Asha Vahishta is the Vahishta, Bahishta best. The best Asha. You say Asha is the rule of universe. What's this best after it? There is worst Asha? No, there are different grades of Asha. If from here you want to drive to Aberdeen, which I don't know how you get there, but if you want to drive to Aberdeen, say, there are few ways. All of them are good. But there is one which is the best. Asha Vahishta, the best Asha. You have to find the best Asha. Then you are on your road for a good, safe, short trip. And then you have to have some sort of this committee that you have made. You have to, somebody has to make the records of the minutes. Somebody has to call the session. Somebody has to do. That's Khashatra Vairi. Khashatra Shahriyari, the kingdom. Vairi Barguzide, or elected. Between ourselves, we have to decide who is going to be running the visit, who is going to make note of the minutes, who is going to do this. This is Khashatra Vair. Shahriyari means the good government. We have to establish that. Then Armaiti, Spanta Armaiti. Armaiti آرامش در زبان کنونی فارسی باز آرامشی در کار باش دورم جمع شیم نه یکی اونور داد بزنه یکی اونور حرف بزنه یکی قرد کنه از در بره بیرون یکی دنبالش بوده این کارهایی که ما تو ساری من یه دفعه سویچ کردم به فارسی برای این چیزا تو فارسی خیلی بهتر میشه گفت و فهم به هر حال that's not good, that's not the Spanta army. Once you achieve all those, then of course Habartat, which is Rasai, Balandigi, then it's at the point that you have made the design, everything has worked, you want to put this thing together. Once you put this thing together, you make a new car set, then you achieve Amerta, immortality. Then your name gets attached to this invention and forever you live, no matter if you are on here or you are not. So that is the Amertat. Please, the month we don't have Mordad. Mordad means death, means dying. Amertat, A means like in English even A or An negates the concept. Amertat means immortality. The word exactly is amerta, that's in English, immortality. So with all this, now we have this trend that from Zarathustra, philosophy was from Zarathustra, the thought was from Zarathustra or Zarathustra, and comes down, gotten put to action by Cyrus the Great and other good kings that we've had, and then comes down to Ferdowsi, who was an absolute genius. Like Ferdowsi, I have a design in my own head. I said, like Zarathustra, you might see another human being with that degree of genius every 15,000 years. There should be one. With the Cyrus, you know, we are still waiting for somebody like him to show up again. So I would say every 3,000 to 5,000 years. With Ferdowsi, I think I would extend it around the time with Zarathustra, like 15,000 years or maybe 10,000 to 15,000 years. These are absolute geniuses, each one of them in their own way. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much. Before we go to the next session and I will ask Dr. Anooshirvani to leave, I thought it's appropriate, since Dr. Anooshirvani gave us such a good talk on Cyrus the Great and Persian ethics and culture. I've got a piece of music and video of Shahkar Bineshkar. He's done a beautiful job based on Karl Rove's music, and he's in praise of Iran and especially Cyprus. Let's listen to that.
اگر